Good afternoon, everybody. This is Brandon with the Charter Authority. Welcome to our July edition of our Assessment and Accountability Updates call. We are recording this presentation, so we'll send you a link that has the PowerPoint and also the recording at some point in the next few days. The other housekeeping is please mute yourself as always, and then if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or put something in the chat. This presentation today, I think, will go pretty quickly, so we'll have some time at the end for questions. By way of introductions, it looks like most of you here on the call are familiar with us. We have a three-person team. Selchik's our supervisor. Brandon, that's me. I'm the primary accountability contact. And then Mary is also on the call, who is the primary assessment contact. But we work together closely on all topics. So the agenda for today, we'll talk about some assessment topics, including the updated 24-25 calendar, some fall deadlines related to assessment tasks and epicenter, some specific assessment information. For accountability, it's pretty light today. We just have a few remaining data collections. We have some other updates, and then finally resources. So I'll pass it to Mary for the assessment section here.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully everyone's enjoying their summer break. Hopefully it's not too hot where you are. It does get a little warm where we are and just in general across the state. Just to show you again, we have the 24-25 calendar for assessments. The windows are roughly the same, just a few slight date tweaks, but roughly the same amount of time for SPAC, science, and other things. We have the ACT with the paper and pencil and their makeup dates, of course, the online. We get a lot of questions about the kindergarten entry assessment. Per NAC, you can use either the MAP reading assessment or Brigance. Brigance, you will have to talk to them individually for that. And then, of course, we have our testing windows for MAP at the bottom, hosted by NWEA. And for the rest of our testing calendars, we have the Nevada alternate assessment. It is fairly similar, once again, to the testing windows as last time. It is a little bit more, it is a little longer than the typical SBAC. We also have the WIDA assessments, which of course come in the early part of the year. We also have here the CTE assessments that each individual schools kind of handle on their own. And at the bottom, which is was not on the calendar last year, we have NAEP, the National Assessment of Education Progress. Schools will be contacted. Those that are selected, you'll receive a notice with the assessment date for the NAEP team to administer the assessment at your school. If you're curious to learn more, you can go to their governing board website, but you can see on the left the grades and content areas that they will be focusing on. Just a couple of deadlines. Of course, we love data collections and collecting information. And of course, that also works with state assessments. Just to prep us for the upcoming testing season, aka school year, due August 16th, all in Epicenter, we need the annual authorization to administer test form submission. Each campus must submit a form signed by principal certifying the school that will comply with test security policies. Please make sure you're doing all these as well. We have our testing calendar submission. That is we started this last year. That is to help us, to help you, and also in case NDE decides to come in for a visit, that is part of their prerogative. They sometimes come in and just do observations, lets us know what information we can provide them when they look for options, and also if there are questions and whatnot that you may have for us and how we can support you. The annual assessment, training and confidentiality certification. Each charter holder must certify specified state assessment training requirements were and or will be met. We have updated relevant forms for 2024-25 school year. They're also attached to the Epicenter task for school use. These are provided here. There are moments when we at SPCSA may ask for this documentation. Please make sure it's rather handy for us to grab. I will get to you in just a moment, Kim. Good question. Just in case we have questions or concerns happen to pop up, so please make sure those are handy. We do not have a training video as of yet from NDE for this coming school year. We will, once we have that, we will move the epicenter. We'll let you know, and if we need to, we can move the epicenter deadline if needed. Kim has a great question for the testing calendars. It does say charter holder. It is actually very helpful for myself when we did this collection last time to have it for each individual campus, understanding that some charters have one campus, some have multiple. It is actually very helpful because there are moments when we get requests or questions from different administrators at different campus sites, and we're not just going under the umbrella of all are going at the same time. So for myself, it would be very, very beneficial. And Brandon?
I'm just going to add, I think, apologies for the verbiage here. I think it's set up in Epicenter to collect it by charter holder. And the task itself says, charter holders with multiple campuses can submit a single testing calendar that applies to all campuses. Note if this is the case, or a testing calendar for each school campus. So Kim, you can definitely upload multiple testing calendars if needed. And the reason we set it up that way, I think, was so that it would be easier for schools. So certain charter holders wouldn't have to update the same calendar like 10 times for 10 schools.
So what was really great, Kim, is that Brandon had taken the sentence that was going to come out of my brain and just went with it. Because it was going to be, if you have a shared calendar across them, then please use the same one and just make that note. If not, please do individuals. Yeah. Also due on August 16th, we apparently love this date. We have the annual test security plan submissions. There are two different tasks here, one per charter holder. This must be approved by your charter governing body, aka your board. It does include a single test security plan that applies to all campuses under the charter. The biggest one here is that it must be approved by your charter governing board. Then there's also the campus level. This is updated as well. Each campus under a charter holder with multiple campus must submit a test security plan. So if I have a charter holder A and they have 3 schools underneath, technically we're getting 4. Correct, Brandon? We have a charter holder, and then I have the 3 for the individual locations. So there may be an instance where I have the 3 individual locations, but not a charter holder. Hopefully what's happening is that this one, the one from the charter holder level, is being presented at an upcoming board meeting and will then be submitted. So making sure we have all those ducks in a row, if you will, part of my analogy, for us to look at that, because then we will submit those as well. There has been an updated test security administration manual that outlines the requirements. If you've previously submitted, so Brandon, I'm kind of looking at you because we do have a small handful. I would double check the manual, the updated one. You should be fairly on point with what you've submitted. If you're not sure, I believe you can always just resubmit. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, I think the updated 24-25 test security manual, which it does outline the requirements for test security plans. I don't think there are any changes this year in that area of the manual.
I don't believe so.
Let me just make sure. They do have a section on new in this edition, 24-25 edition. It's just the updates were related to security cameras, unlocking guidelines, irregularity requirements, and investigations into irregularities. So there were no changes in the test security plan requirements. It should be the same as last year. It should be good.
Yeah. So it never hurts to also look at it, even if you've already submitted, but keeping those things in mind. Due September 30th in Epicenter, we need your annual provision of assessment whistleblower protection certification. Must certify that their governing body has provided the annual NDE whistleblower protections information to staff. And we also need the certification regarding written test security notice, making sure all that information has also been given to staff as well.
I'm just going to add one thing. So some of these
Feeling.
tasks depend on the NDE providing documents to us on time. For example, the whistleblower. So once we get that, what I'm trying to say is if the deadline comes up and we still don't have that from NDE, we might end up having
We'll
to move
shift
it.
it.
And same
Yeah.
goes for the state assessment training certification, because that does require staff that are involved in assessments to watch the training video. If we don't get that from NDE in time with some kind of reasonable time period before August 16th, we'll move that task as well.
Yeah, and we are also in contact with NDE to see about when hopefully that video might be available, and we can also be in contact about other things. So just a couple of wrap ups with last year's data. So you've already seen in the WEED AMS, there's data posted. That was as of June 11th. Coming up in September, the alternate access reports and data files will be available online, and then the printed versions will be in early October via the WEED portal. A lot of questions happened in mid-June regarding district student data. Hopefully we've answered those questions and helped disseminate some of those information. The student and roster reports will be, as far as we know, posted into Insight portal beginning August 7th. Once we have that confirmed, we'll also send out an email and let you know. As far as guidance for this, that's also why we have it on the side. But at the moment, regarding NDE files used in SPF, those are we're still waiting on those. And that's just to make sure, because we just had a meeting on this, is to make sure that the data is ready and available to use for for schools. And once that is available, we'll have those posted to Bighorn for you to use. Hopefully towards the end of the month. I'm hoping a little sooner, but they're currently doing their due diligence on the NDE side. ACT, yes, we are in the middle of data validation. That actually should read the 26th. Should it not? I think we have it as July 24th. We just had the update. Pardon, it is actually close of business July 26th. So by 5 p.m., we'll adjust that here on our end. We do have guidance in the epicenter task.
Sorry, I'm just going to add the SPCSA deadline is the 24th. NDE is technically the 26th, but we always need to build in
That's
buffer.
a weekend. Yeah.
We always need to build in buffer time so that we can ensure we have a little bit of time to review everything before we lock the entire data set for SPCSA data set for NDE. So the deadline is Wednesday, July 24 for ACT for SPCSA schools.
Yeah. So, and we've received some questions thus far, pretty straightforward ones, but if you have questions, please let us know. And we appreciate your patience, especially I do, as this is going on. I think that was all for that. So I'm gonna pass it back to Brandon for his guidance.
So on the accountability side, doing a couple days, we have the NSPF College and Career Ready CCR data collection. There's a task in Epicenter. Many schools have already submitted this, which was it was initially due June 28th, I believe, but we did extend it to July 19 for some schools that had late arriving AP scores that they need to incorporate into that. So hopefully this July 19 deadline works for those schools and you're able to get those AP scores. If not, please let us know ASAP so that we can try to work with NDE to see if we can get an extension, because the NDE deadline is very shortly thereafter, the 19th. I think it's Monday. So we need some time to compile everything and get it ready to submit to NDE. And then we have the annual NDE ACing accountability data collections. There are 3 tasks in Epicenter, which may or may not be relevant to your school. The first 2 CCR enrollment and proficiency data are for high schools only. Those relate to some counts of high school students that are enrolled or passing certain CCR program areas. And then workforce data is applicable to all schools. It's counts of various workforce and staff data. And again, these ACing accountability data collections are related to the Nevada governor's initiative related to school funding and demonstrating that progress has been made in relation to the funding. So we apologize that there's an additional data collection or data collections, but that's what that's for. Other updates, we have Bighorn cleanup. The NDE noted today on their weekly Bighorn call that they're going to soon be deleting items that were posted prior to the 23-24 school year in Bighorn because they continue to note that Bighorn's a file transfer portal and not a file storage portal. So if you do have any items in there in Bighorn that you have not downloaded or you need, please do that before they delete those. Generally, I think we've started using Epicenter to collect a lot of items, but we do post assessment files as they're available. So for example, last year's assessment files from NDE or growth files, those are on there. If you haven't downloaded them, make sure to download them. I don't think NDE will delete those because we posted those after the 23-24 school year started, but it's always good to download those for your own records anyway. And then summer EBT, I think we had this last month. Action needed ASAP. All charters must have FRL records for eligible students entered in Infinite Campus, including schools that are CEP. And this is only for schools that participate in the National School Lunch Program, this summer EBT program. So if you don't have FRL in there, please make sure to get it in as soon as possible. NDE might have already pulled this, but if you haven't put it in there, still good to do it anyway. Resources, we have our assessment accountability canvas page. We post all the calls and recordings there, trainings, resources, guidance. We do have archived information from prior years as well. And then we have some trainings that we did last year. We did these trainings for, let's see, we did a couple of these trainings for new schools, the orientation and the star ratings training. They are available on the Canvas page now, but we're probably going to do a live training as we typically do annually, sometime maybe in August or September for existing schools that maybe have new staff or maybe want a refresher on these topics. The SPCSA Academic Performance Framework training, what I'll say about that is that there may be changes coming to that if you haven't been involved or heard about it or seen any of the recent board meetings. That may be in effect for next year. So this training is still relevant to the results that are going to come out this fall, but there may be updated training for next year. So there's our contact info. We thank you for joining us, and we're happy to take any questions that you may have. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you for joining us today. We do appreciate you taking the time